One same answer to woe. Everything comes of this. Palm of hand, opened, tamed, and got subdued to allow control toward authority. This goal, binding protection, leading and teaching. Also like all, every, whole, entire, total. From this mighty, lifted up sea, and blood, or even that from, waters to waters, people to people. As a mark, strong indicator, signature of this covenant. Identification of people, place and thing, sprouting seed, and continuation of this Wai-Shua given kingdom of life, that which Wai-Sha shines light on, to look at and behold, breath of life. And as that revealed breath of life in man, also like gift, sacrificial offering, that and that which comes of this mark, sign, signature, and signed covenant, as identification of people, places, and things of this, in this anointed tent peg, connected to this nail, joined to fix, to this family, house, and tent floor plan, also like good, best, and all that added, connected to this, everything from this, and only this, palm of hand, and palm of hand, bent and curved, tamed thus allowed to tame of and with this staff, bind to control toward authority, protection, binding, lead, and teaching, also like all, whole, total, that, from this mighty, lifted up sea, and blood, a mark, strong indicator, and signature of this covenant, as well as identification of people, place, and thing, seed, sons, continuation thereof, of, in, and for this Waiha given kingdom of life, that which Waiha shines light on to look at, and behold, breath of life, and revealed breath of life in man, also like gift, sacrificial offering. This mark, sign, and signature for this covenant, as well as by which an indication of people, place, thing, things this and from, of this, mighty, lifted up sea, blood, and of this arm, and hand thrust, thus, handiwork, this deed, to those waters, people, also like complete, perfect, blameless, without blemish, entire, integrity, truth, sound, to face frontward facing frontward, coming from this front, and divided, pressed, repeated and sharpened from this massive, mighty, lifted up sea. From this arm, this hand got thrust deed to physically observe, on those waters, for that many people, blemish, also like heaven, skies, lofty, from inside to outside of this tent wall, fence, separation, hanging down, this door, thus, pathway got pressed, divided, also like new, and look, behold, from this arm, this hand, handiwork thrust, throne deed, made to physically observe breath, life, and breath of life in man, also like come to pass, exist. This arm thrust this hand, deed for handiwork, to physically observe, from this head, as person, first, and top man, from, of this topmost rule, first possession, and inheritance to move, lowered as a door, and pathway, also like goes down, descend, from this massive, unknown, lifted up sea, onto waters, blemish, people, as sun, heir of this Wai-Shu given kingdom of life, as something Wai-Sha's light shines on, also like from, out of, by, since, behold, from, of this breath, life, ox of this chief, chief of this family, family house, inside of this tent floor plan, also like father of Nkkhchah, this chief, through this anointed tent peg, nail and hook to secure, to join things to this head, by person, top and first man, to this topmost rule, first possession and inheritance, also like light, illumination, of all water, lifted up sea, ox, many, this chief, anointed tent peg, hook to secure to this head with person, to this topmost rule, beginning, first possession, and inheritance, also like all luminous bodies, this chief, and ox, of this chief and oxen desire, as a man, men, on his side, wait on this trail of authority, this goal, protection, leadership, and teaching, also like beside, near, with, at, toward, if, with an eye, eyes, to see, heed, understand, and understand this cover, that it has no color, no shade, this authority, goal, staff, control toward authority, bind, this binding leadership and teaching, also like concerning, whom, he, which, it, on, beside, this chief, power, has power to face one to this front, consume, press as this head, into person, this topmost rule, beginning, possession and inheritance, also like who, which, that, and, in and of this authority, goal, leadership, teaching, and binding, also like know, beholds life, this arm, and hand, deed, this to physically observe, life and breath revealed in mankind, also like exist, occurs, came, to get to face this front, divided seed, an heir, Nkkhchah, given life, that which Nkkhchah's light shines on, for this kingdom of life, sprouting seed, perpetuation to look at, thus, behold breath and life, also like to change, repeat, to do again, from inside this tent wall, protection, authority to split, this goal, staff, bind, by mouth, no scattering, edges, also like to pass, to change, to renew, to this chief an ox, strength, power, anointed tent peg, connected, hooked to secure, also, like or, except, consuming, changing, biting, repeating, pressing, splitting of this air, sprouting seed, sons, this kingdom of life, that which Yahweh shines light on, this family house, tent floor plan, also like turning back, exemption. And by way of this, anointed tent peg, hooked to secure with it, him, breath, breath of life and life, look at this, revealed, those men in existence, that if, when they walked away from this carrying camel, anointed tent peg, hook to secure, to fix and connect to this arm, by this hand, thrust, deed, to have had it physically observed, also like nation, peoples, Gentiles, if, when not of this chief and ox, kingdom of life, that which Yah-Shah shines light on, and all therein of this mouth, word, blowing command, then, if when, of sword, that with sharp edges, also like to breath hard, get enraged, if when separated, outside this tent wall, head and person, separated from this first, top man, topmost rule, and first possession and inheritance. Look at this, and behold, breath, breath of life and breath of life in man, also like to get, feel, hot, burn, to get, feel, angry, kindled, if, whenever opposed to this anointed tent peg, hooked to secure, this anointed tent peg from inside this house, family and tent floor plan, with this him joined, and this chief, power, strength, and with this ox, also like to come, enter to this arm, and this hand, thrown, to do handiwork for physical observation, this staff and authority subdue, also like to go, walk, proceed. Then this, and of this breath, breath of life and life to mankind, again gets revealed. Now this chief and ox open this mouth, blowing sword, command, to scatter, also like ire, nostril, face. This sun on this horizon, and sun circuit as day, and a line of, to this father go around, gathering, condensing all chasers, all lie in wait, in need, at this mouth and command, blowing like a sword into openness, also like wrath, indignation, by this chief and his ox of, and for this covenant, mark, sign, and identification of people, place, and thing, life, this breath, and breath of life, also like you, and by, through, also due to this anointed tent peg, nail, and life, breath now, look at this and see, experience understanding of cover, from this appearance of this covenant, sign, signature, strength of this identification of people, place, and thing, also like time, season, when, at this point, once more, from this massive, lifted up sea, to those waters, people, this anointed tent peg they see, and understand this door, also like appointed time, meeting, assembly, with this breath, breath of life, man, existence of those waters, chaos, tumult, blemish, many people, or of this massive, mighty, lifted up sea, blood, and drink, covenant, mark, sign, and identification of people, place, thing of life and breath, also like dead, or to die, facing all to this front, to divide, consume, or not, dividing by this word, mouth, and command, of blowing like a sword, and those to contain, surrounding, storing, or not, also like to judge, govern, vindicate. By this door, those that enter this arm and hand, by this hand's handiwork, arm to hand's deed, physically observing this, also doing handiwork for, perpetuation in and of this why she ish given kingdom of life, also like to judge, contend, plead, by due to and based on this anointed tent peg, connectedness in this why he h given kingdom of life, heir, sons, sprouting seed, etc. This continuation comes by way of this covenant, sign, signer, mark identifying of people, place, thing to those sons, also like to give, put, set, from and of this arm, hand via deed, look at this revealed, from breath, life to men of this tent floor plan, family and house, those inside, also like provide, ascribe, to those men of life, breath of life, divided from this front, pressed from this palm of hand, which, that allowed for palms of hand, tamed and subdued those men from this chief, and ox, topmost rule, first possession, and inheritance from this beginning, also like reward, wages, hire, payment. By foot, how one walked, like this carrying camel of this lifted up sea, blood, this anointed tent peg, and how connected, joined, fixed to, and by this staff, goal, authority, also like recompense, benefit, dealing, to those palms of hand tamed, subdued, those men from this chief, ox, topmost rule, first possession, and inheritance from this beginning, to those with eyes to see, experience, watch, heeding, and to work to understand this cover and appearance of this house, of this family inside this tent floor plan, this hanging down door, also like servant, slave, bondservant, of to this chief and his ox for this covenant. Mark and sign, an identification of people, place, and thing of life, this breath of life, also like you, offspring, seed, sons of this why she given kingdom of life, to and of this family. House and tent floor plan of this arm and hand that got thrust in for deed, for physical observation, those physically observing this chief and ox, also like spokesperson, prophet, all to this anointed tent peg connected, to this anointed tent peg connected, men of life, breath of life, to and by this sun on this horizon, sun, day, line, and father, to gather and working to gather to this lowered door, anointed tent peg, connect to that, working to face frontward, changed and split from elsewhere, also like set apart, those set apart ones. To this anointed tent peg connected, these men beholding life, this breath of life, arm and hand, deed, doing handiwork, physically observing this head, and person, man from this beginning, top man, topmost rule, first possession, and inheritance of this chief and ox, also like to fear, revere, this arm, and hand physically observe, this deed, head and person, chief and ox, look at and behold life, breath of life, also like terror, reverence, the breath of life, life, and breath of life revealed in man for mankind, this one, this facing, this front, this divided, whom split blood, to lift up from this lifted up sea, those people, to blemish, chaos, upheaval, also like name, appellation, as a mark, memorial of individuality, honor, authority, character, of this chief by, through his ox, for this covenant, mark, a sign, identification of people, place, and thing, in and of, life, also like you, those of, divided by, this gathering to this sun on this horizon, sun, day, and line, to, and of this Father, to condense, get encircled, surrounded, stored as in a womb, of this air, offspring, and to continue this, and in this you-given kingdom of life, also like small, young, and with foot in this walk, gathered by this carrying camel, on and towards this tent door, on this pathway, in and of this anointed tent peg, to control toward binding authority, protection, this leader teaches, taught, also like great, large, important, mighty. Due to, through this anointed tent peg, this palm of hand allows by subduing this palm of hand to this staff, with this goal of control toward binding authority, protection, leading, and teaching, to breath and life, also like to complete, finish, accomplish, consume, destroy, separating those inside and outside of this tent wall, family, tent floor plan, staff and goal, authority, protection, lead, and teaching, also like to bind, pledge, dividing in two, those facing this front, those inside this tent wall, and those outside this covenant, mark and sign, identification of people, place, thing, also like corrupt, spoil, those of this chief, ox, inside family, house and tent floor plan, door, and pathway, and those not, also like to wander away, lose oneself, look with breath, life to breath of life to those inside and those outside of this tent wall, separated and not in this house, not in and of this goal, authority, protection, bind, leading, and teaching, also like injure, any, if still trying to get away, from this mighty, lifted up sea. If any still try not to face this front, from this front divided, if ever not from inside this tent wall, with this arm, hand, handiwork, and deed, thrust for physical observation, covenant, signed, mark, and signature, identification of people, place, and thing, also like of trap, ruin. This lifted up blood, lifted up massive, mighty sea to those many people, waters trying not to physically observe this arm, hand, covenant, and deed, also like small lizard place, life, breath, and breath of life revealed in man within existence, in and on where this chief, head-put persons, man from this beginning, coming from this top and topmost rule, possession and inheritance, man on his side, while needing, desires this trail, also like earth, ground, grounds,